Welcome to the second exercise of learning to code HTML with X3Schools. In this exercise we'll look at some ways of making our web pages look more interesting. Before we start, this is what we are going to try and make in this exercise. As you can see, our page looks a bit more interesting than the last one. We have a light green background and the text is no longer uniform in style across the page. There still aren't too many frills, but this page does use some important concepts of HTML. Now that we've seen our goal, let's begin. As we are going to use the file from the last exercise as a starting point, I've made a copy of the file. To complete the exercise we will be modifying the code in this file, so I've opened it in my text editor. The first thing to do is to change the title of our page to match our goal. We do this by simply changing the text in between the current title tag. The first new tag that we come across in this exercise is the P tag. This tag stands for paragraph and is used to help us lay out the text in our page. This is needed because of a feature in HTML. To see this feature, I'm going to add a line gap in our code, save the file and open it in my web browser. As you can see, while the gap is still in our code, it doesn't show in the web browser. This is because HTML converts multiple spaces and new lines into a single space. New lines are special characters that represent the end of a line. Although this seems like a nuisance, this feature will actually help us out a lot, as it allows us to write our content without worrying too much about layout. However, the problem here is that we can't show our new lines when we want them to show. This is where the P tag comes in handy. What I'm going to do now is to enter some code inside P tags. This will lay out our text in paragraphs. Now I'm going to save my code and open it in my web browser. As you can see, there are now two lines. Each of these is a paragraph. If there was more text inside the P tags, then the words would be positioned neatly inside the browser window, but there would still be a gap between the two paragraphs. Now that we've seen a good way to lay out our code, we're going to look at a few ways of making it look different, and of course meet some new tags. Firstly, two of these new tags are B and I. B stands for bold and I stands for italics. So now I'm going to modify my first paragraph using these tags and see what happens. Now I'm going to save my code and open it in my web browser. As you can see, the first part of the text is in bold and the second part is in italics. Next, we're going to look at how to resize text in a very simple way. For this, we meet two new tags, big and small. As you might have guessed, one of these tags makes the text bigger and the other makes the text inside it smaller. So let's see what happens when we modify our second paragraph with the tags. Now I'm going to save and reload the code in the browser. As you can see, the first part of the text is bigger than the normal, and the second part is smaller than normal. Our final new tag in formatting for this exercise is the heading tag. There are several layers of heading ready for use in HTML, but for now we are only going to look at level 1. The new tag in this case is H1. Let's see what happens when I modify our code to use a heading. Now I'm going to reload the page in the browser. As you can see, our heading text is a lot bigger than the rest of our text and stands out a lot more. Also notice how the H1 tags also add a line gap in between the header and the first paragraph. The final part of the exercise is a very brief look at colours in HTML. This also requires that we look at attributes for different tags. HTML tags usually have their own set of attributes. One way to explain them is to say that they're a bit like options for things like colour, alignment, size, and other properties about a tag. The main attribute that we're going to look at in this exercise is the style attribute for the body tag. Style gives us several options for the style of the page. The one that we're interested in now is background colour. Now I'm going to modify our opening body tag to change the background colour of the page. What we need to do now is enter style equals quote background dash colour, note the American spelling, colon light green, all one word, quote. Now let's see what this does to our page. So now our page is a pleasant light green. If you so wish, you could change light green to any other common colour, such as red, blue or yellow. For now, let's compare our page to the goal page. As you can see, there's very little difference, and that means we have now completed the exercise. And there we have a more interesting web page. It still won't hold its own against larger websites, but the concepts covered here will allow us to move on to more complicated web pages. That concludes exercise 2 of learning to code HTML with X3 Schools.